Africa needs it now.
There is a wonderful example in a big and new national park in Congo, Brazzaville. That's the Republic of Congo. And this area, the Gualogo Triangle, is an area that was completely remote. It was surrounded by swamps, and living around the swamps were pygmy people. So when this area was delineated as a national park, Mike Fay, who was instrumental in making this happen, said to the local pygmy population, I'm not going to move you, this is your land, you deserve to be here, but because we're leaving you, you have to promise that you will keep your population about the same size and you will no longer hunt any of these endangered species. Well, that's been going now for about, 5, 6, 7 years, and total harmony between the animals and the people, as has been the case for hundreds and hundreds of years. And I think it's absolutely wrong to force these people away from their land, providing they will agree to become conservators in our sense of the word, not just theirs.
Organizations would take a very serious look at the needs of indigenous pastoralist peoples within Africa, I think they would find that there is a people that are greatly in need of the support and of the guidance from such world bodies. So if I can make that plea to such bodies to look to the pastoralists, and if that plea is heard, I will feel that at least some of my work has been achieved.
The defining moment for Fisher was his discovery of the plight of an indigenous group of Batwa Pygmies living along a logging road in southwest Uganda.
Finally, our little guide brought us to a clearing in the center of the deep Ituri forest, and hundreds of pygmies came from all directions to greet us. The average height is a little over 4 feet, and they rarely weigh more than 75 pounds, but they are well proportioned and comparatively strong. This is the smallest tribe of people in the world. The clan leaders are in turn ruled by a great king who occupies his throne through blood succession, just like the crowned heads of Europe. He is honoring us by coming in from the depths of his forest capital. We wanted to pay our respects to His Majesty there, but the darkness in the interior makes photography impossible, and the king graciously offered to come to us in the clearing. He is comparatively young, and both he and his subjects show character and intelligence. In this, they differ from most of the other African tribes. Besides supplying music for the dance, these great tom-toms boom out messages in a code similar to our telegraphy. Everybody dances in Pygmy land, and their chanting, while not particularly harmonious, has a fast rhythm that makes the feet want to do things.
The Batwa or Twa are an indigenous pygmy people of Central Africa. The term pygmy, which is derived from an ancient measure of the distance between the elbow and knuckles, known as pygmaio in Greek, refers traditionally to peoples who as fully grown adults do not exceed 150 centimeters, or 4 feet 11. One of the first mentions of pygmies is Homer's description of a tribe of dwarfs said to live in Ethiopia. The Fisher expedition encountered 2 groups of Batwa in the foothills of the Rwenzori mountain range, the fabled Mountains of the Moon, that straddle the boundary between Uganda and the Democratic Republic of Congo. They live in crude, erected, thatched-roofed mud huts, but despite their obvious, extreme poverty, they were outwardly very happy. As a steady stream of adventure tourists pays up to $500 for the permission to view gorillas, not far away the Batwa struggle in small groups to carve out a meagre existence. Over the past 5,000 years, the Batwa were a semi-nomadic group of hunter-gatherers that considered themselves to be the protectors of the forest. They thrived for so long in a land that suffered every imaginable calamity, from war to deadly disease to famine to drought. Although they had been living harmoniously alongside the great apes for thousands of years, they were removed from the Ugandan forests in the 1990s to make way for the creation of national parks. Today, less than 40% of the Batwa have land to call their own. The Ugandan government has never compensated them for removing them from their natural habitat. Many live in small settlements surrounding the national parks on lands purchased by donors. Discrimination and poverty prevents the Batwa from sending their children to school or taking them to local clinics for treatment. They are subject to harassment and random violence.
As I mentioned before, in the European and the North American case, large predators became a menace, so people eradicated them. They removed them from the landscape because they were a threat to people's lives. But in Africa, we tell the Africans, well, hang on, you can't kill this elephant. You can't kill this lion. Yet at the same time, about 200 people a year are being eaten in Tanzania. Untold number of acres of crops are being damaged. So we said to ourselves, how do we work with these communities to get them to help us conserve the wildlife and to conserve the environment? So over our history, we've developed this idea of stewardship. And within that model of stewardship, there are sort of three separate aspects. The first and most important is that local communities benefit substantially from the natural resources that they live in and are stewards of. That they also need to be involved in the management and protection of those resources. And lastly, they need to understand intellectually what that resource is and how it affects their lives and how the whole thing comes together.